I said it twice, and not that I expected anyone to respond, but I was like, oh, I am muted. Cool. Well, as usual, I'll probably give like another minute, but we're going to get right into it because we are the most efficient ABC, and I intend to uphold that. Okay, cool. So yeah, in the interest of time, because we've condensed these meetings so much, I'm going to go ahead and get started. This week we are focusing on governance scope. Thank you, OpenSky, for updating the document. Thank you, Blue, for your presentation last week. Anyone who hasn't had a chance to either watch the presentation or look through the Miro board, we can resend the link, but it was great. So yeah, just wanted to start the conversation as we usually do since we're on Fridays and with the goal of composability in mind. Just if anyone has any updates from other ABC meetings that have happened this week or links or presentations that they think should be surfaced or that would be good to be aware of, that would be awesome. Nothing's happened this week. I think I saw maybe in KISS or somewhere else that Patrick gave a presentation in another ABC meeting this week. So if no one else saw that, I can go dig up the link, but I'm answering my own question. Yeah, I know. I can't believe time has flown. We are getting close to the finish line. It's cool seeing the advisory council document start to get so populated, and yeah, we're not at the beginning anymore. I was just OpenSky, you're like inside my brain. A reflection document would be awesome to start, Blue. I think that's a great suggestion, and also one that plays well into OpenSky, your point, which is how are not only we making the AC selection process more composable, but like what recommendations do we as a group who focuses on kind of composability across all of the different processes, maybe some specific recommendations. And on that note, Blue, I was looking back through the peer-to-peer document that you put together, which I loved and was like in excruciating detail, which I really appreciate. And was even thinking about the fact that one of the first questions we asked as a group at the very beginning of this process was very much like, okay, we understand the roles of an AVC, but how do they work together, knowing that there is a lot of overlap, not only on just the requirements that we're all putting together, but also just the manifestation of how that actually works, right? So like making sure that groups aren't talking to the same experts and pitching them separately, and that we're not duplicating work for the facilitators and people that are having to operate between different groups. So we were trying to like limit as much context switching and also just repetition as possible. So I agree that the peer-to-peer process is quite composable. I think I even have maybe a recommendation or two on how to make it even more so. Like, I think it would be great if we were able to, do something like a joke race where people submit maybe just experts that we each as like an overall maker group like can choose from, but just have more visibility into that short list so that, like I said, there isn't just people replicating. Yeah, every presentation to CVC should be deposited in some common repository and tagged so it's searchable. It is a good question, like who is responsible for that? And how are we coordinating with the people that are responsible so that it's not like, hey, come present to this AVC and then do the exact same thing the next day and them having to do the work of reconciling. So I think that's a really good question, Open Sky, and I don't really have an answer to it. But I think if we can add that into the document, we can just start to kind of raise some of those, because sometimes even just prompting the question is helpful as opposed to needing to come with an answer.
I can give a short overview about what Patrick said, because that was on the growth AVC.
Oh,
and
thank you.
I think he had some like really good points. So basically, one of the big challenges is, of course, familiarity with maker governance and endgame, because it's so specific to the DAO world. But that doesn't really exclude external experts, because there are still like people who have great thoughts about how governance runs. Like he mentioned Kevin O'Walkie, which is of course GOAT,
right?
Others. So I think that's kind of cool. And all in all, I think governance will move to these facilitated DAOs, and there will be at least two. So the process is kind of changing, but still, I think what he mentioned is that the whole arbitration process. So like people familiar with like how arbitration works, that have some, I don't know, experience with facilitating arbitration, or how you call it, like when people don't go to court, but they take this like extra court route of like mediation or something, like people like that. Are also,
yeah, like mediators.
Mediators, exactly. Yeah, that. So I think people like that are probably also qualified to, just in terms of like knowing processes, or how to design processes that work and that have proven to be resilient. And yeah,
right.
I
like that.
Takeaways.
I like that, especially because I saw some back and forth just about like how a nice to have obviously would be, familiarity with endgame itself, with maker governance itself. But yeah, in the interest of being composable, I think someone raised a good point that smart people who are motivated to learn and bring different skill sets into the mix can actually kind of expand the surface area of what we can be learning, and complement some of the in-house knowledge that we have, as opposed to kind of like replacing it. Do we have a link to that presentation by chance also? If not, I can find it later. Yeah, great. And I know Open Sky, you shared the document again and updated it for the governance scope. Obviously, this upcoming week, people can make notes in there if we have additions to add. And then we'll focus on support scope next week. Remind me how many, I feel like we are close to the end, aren't we, Open Sky? Are there any others that are completely open still? Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So then we'll finish out governance by next week. We'll finalize support scope next, and then we can, do a little bit more philosophizing in the strategy doc. Yep. And that's, I think, again, like more where we're a little bit more opinionated, I think. Yeah, let's write these down because I don't want to forget them either. Okay, great. I appreciate it. Have there been any other like big, I mean, I guess not like changes this week. But yeah, just anything else to be aware of, because it seems like we're kind of tying the bow on a lot of the documents themselves. And like I said, I just don't want to get into the final sprint and be like, oh, wait, we forgot. Oh, thank you, Catcher. I'll add this to the follow-up notes as well. Does anyone have an opinion or TLDR on the new MIP? If not, it would be great to surface any information on that in the upcoming week. I can add it to the list of action items too, but would be great. Awesome. Thank you, True Name. I love how the TLDR is still kind of long. I was like gonna read it right now, and I'm like, I don't think that's the best use of everyone's time for the last 2 minutes. We could do story time though. And actually, yeah, Open Sky, that is another good point. Are there any other, even just like presentations in general, that either, again, feel like a gap in other ABCs or where everyone could benefit from a little bit more clarity? Yeah. It does seem like a worthy goal to like move towards though. Just to the point too about I think expanding some of the scopes, not the scopes themselves, but just like the requirements for people to come in. It seems like we're leaning a little bit more towards external experts versus everyone needing to already be up to speed on everything by the time they come in and add value. So I do think, especially in the spirit of composability, that should be as automated as we can make it. Agree. Yeah, I think that's squarely accessibility. Okay, cool. Well, unless anyone else has any like specific updates that we didn't cover, I think for the upcoming week, Open Sky already shared the document with some of the governance points already in there. But if we could wrap up that section by next week and then finalize support scope next week, and then get into the philosophizing. We love to philosophize. We've got some reading homework to do. Awesome. Yeah. Blue, if you're still okay with that, I will also tag you in for starting that document. Oh, great. Thank you, True Name. That's a good call. Awesome. So we've got a nice little roundup of documents. We've got a couple more that we should probably read before next week's discussion. I'm excited to put a bow on these documents. And yeah, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.